Greetings, friends. Today I want to take you to a quiet coastline in Japan, to a place where the ocean once brought life, trade, and prosperity, and then in a single afternoon, warnings ignored, systems overwhelmed, and consequences that will last for generations. This is the story of Fukushima. On March 11th, 2011, Japan was going about its day like any other. Children were in schools, office workers were finishing their shifts, trains ran on time, as they always did. Japan is one of the most technologically advanced nations on Earth, and it has to be, because it lives with constant danger. Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a place where tectonic plates collide. Earthquakes are common. Preparedness is a way of life. Buildings are designed to sway. Drills are practiced regularly. Early warning systems exist to give people precious seconds to react. That afternoon, at 2:46 p.m. local time, those systems activated. The ground began to shake. At first, it felt like many earthquakes before it. Then it kept going and going. The earthquake reached a magnitude of 9.0, one of the strongest ever recorded in human history. Buildings swayed violently, roads cracked, power lines fell, entire cities shook. But Japan's systems worked, mostly. The shaking stopped. People were shaken, but alive. Many believed the worst was over. They were wrong. Off the coast, far beneath the ocean, the earthquake had displaced massive volumes of water. The sea began to pull back from the shore. This was the real warning. Minutes later, a tsunami rose from the horizon. Not a wave, but a wall of water. In some places, it reached over 40 meters high. It moved faster than a car on a highway. Sirens screamed. People ran. Some didn't understand what they were seeing. The tsunami slammed into the coastline. Entire towns were erased. Houses floated like paper. Cars were crushed. Ships were thrown onto land. More than 18,000 people died. Even then, the disaster was not finished. Along the coast of Fukushima Prefecture stood the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. 6 reactors, concrete walls, backup systems, designed to withstand earthquakes. And at first they did. When the earthquake hit, the reactors automatically shut down. Control rods dropped. Nuclear fission stopped. This is what they were built to do. But shutting down a nuclear reactor does not mean it stops producing heat. Even after shutdown, reactors generate immense residual heat. They must be cooled, and that cooling requires power. When the tsunami arrived, it overwhelmed the plant's seawall. Water flooded the facility. Backup diesel generators, meant to power the cooling systems, were submerged. They failed. The plant lost power. This is known as a station blackout, the most dangerous situation a nuclear plant can face. Inside the reactor, temperatures began to rise. Operators worked desperately. Lights replaced control panels. Phones stopped working. Information was incomplete. They were fighting a battle against time. As hours passed, water levels dropped. Fuel rods became exposed. Temperatures soared. Hydrogen gas built up inside the reactor buildings. And then, explosions. One by one, reactor buildings blew apart. Not nuclear explosions, but hydrogen detonations powerful enough to rip steel and concrete open. Television screens around the world showed it live. People stared in disbelief. Nuclear disaster unfolding in real time. Radiation into the evacuation orders were issued. At first, a few kilometers, then more. Then more again. Families were separated. Hospitals evacuated patients mid-treatment. Elderly residents were rushed onto buses. Some never survived the evacuation itself. Entire towns were emptied. Homes left behind. Meals still on tables. Laundry still hanging. Pets abandoned. A silent zone was born. Inside the plant, workers remained. They would later be called the Fukushima 50. Men who stayed knowing the risks, knowing they might never leave. They pumped seawater into reactors, a decision that permanently destroyed them, but prevented worse catastrophe. They worked in radiation suits, heat, darkness, fear. Some exceeded lifetime radiation limits in days. They stayed anyway. 3 reactor cores melted. Nuclear fuel burned through containment vessels. Radioactive material contaminated air, soil, and sea. The Pacific Ocean absorbed massive amounts of radiation. Fish were contaminated. Farmland became unusable. Entire regions were declared uninhabitable. And the contamination will last decades. In the aftermath, questions began. Why was the seawall too low? Why were backup generators? Flooding was possible. Why were warnings ignored? Investigations revealed uncomfortable truths. Risk assessments had underestimated tsunami height. Cost-cutting had influenced design decisions. Regulators and power companies were too close. Warnings had existed and were dismissed. Fukushima changed Japan forever. All nuclear plants were shut down temporarily. Energy policy was rewritten. Trust was broken. Today, radioactive water continues to accumulate at the site, stored in massive tanks, awaiting controversial release into the ocean. Cleanup will take 40 years. Some say longer. For the people displaced, time stopped in 2011. Some will never return home. Children grew up away from their birthplace. Communities dissolved. Graves were left untended. And beneath it all lies an uncomfortable truth. This disaster was not caused by nature alone. Nature triggered it. Human decisions completed it. Fukushima stands as a warning that technology without humility is fragile, that safety plans must imagine the unimaginable, and that progress always carries a cost. The reactors are silent now, the exclusion zone remains, and the ocean continues to move, indifferent, vast, patient, waiting.